All right, get ready for this one, because in today's deep dive, we're going to be talking about something that's truly joyful.
Yeah, seriously joyful.
Yeah, we're going to be exploring the significance of temples in the Latter-day Saint faith. And not just as buildings, but as gateways to some pretty incredible blessings.
That's right. And the energy that surrounds this topic, it's honestly contagious.
It really is.
We're going to be drawing insights from Elder Duncan's April 2023 General Conference address,
Okay.
A Voice of Gladness.
Ooh, I love that title.
Yeah, a title that hints at the profound joy that we're going to be uncovering today.
Yeah, it's not every day you hear shouts of joy associated with religious doctrine.
Right.
But that's exactly the feeling that Elder Duncan captures right from the start. He quotes Joseph Smith talking about a voice of gladness, a voice of mercy from heaven, a voice of gladness for the living and the dead.
And what's so fascinating about this is the context of that quote.
Wow.
Joseph Smith was specifically referencing the revelation of baptism for the dead.
Oh, wow.
Now, for early Latter-day Saints, this wasn't just another piece of doctrine.
Yeah.
This was like this burst of light in a world where death often meant permanent separation from your loved ones.
Okay. Yeah, I can see how that would spark some serious excitement.
Oh, absolutely.
Suddenly, the possibility of connecting with loved ones even after death,
Right.
and playing a role in their salvation,
Right.
that's a game changer.
Huge game changer.
Yeah. But it sounds like this was even bigger than just baptism, right?
Exactly. This revelation opened the door to a whole system of gifts
Okay.
that God wanted to give his children.
Wow.
Elder Duncan uses this phrase, treasure chest of spiritual blessings.
I love that.
And honestly, it's the perfect analogy.
It is.
Think about it. What's more exciting than discovering a treasure chest that's just overflowing with riches?
I mean, come on.
I know.
So what are some of the gems that we find inside this metaphorical treasure chest?
Well, we're talking about blessings that completely redefine our understanding of family, relationships, and even our own potential. Take priesthood authority, for example.
Oh.
It's not just about power.
Right.
It's about the ability to act in God's name,
Wow.
to become an instrument in his hands to bless others.
That's a pretty incredible privilege.
It really is.
And what about eternal marriage? How does that fit into this picture?
Well, imagine a love that completely transcends the boundaries of mortality.
Okay.
A bond that continues to grow and deepen even after death.
Wow.
That's the promise of eternal marriage.
Yeah.
A commitment that literally spans eternity.
That definitely puts our earthly notion of till death do us part into perspective.
Definitely.
And sealed families.
Oh, yeah.
That's another big one, right?
It is. The sealing power binds children to parents forever,
Wow.
creating this unbreakable chain across generations.
That's a powerful.
Think about the implications of that. Families united across time and eternity.
Yeah.
A legacy of love and connection that endures forever.
It really makes you think about how much our earthly relationships matter, how they can echo into eternity.
It's true.
But ultimately, all of these blessings point towards something even bigger, don't they?
You're right. The ultimate treasure in this chest is the gift of returning to God's presence,
Okay.
to live with him and Jesus Christ again.
Wow.
All these other blessings, priesthood, eternal marriage, sealed families,
Yeah.
they're all stepping stones on that path back to our heavenly home.
And it's the atonement of Jesus Christ that makes all of this possible, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's the foundation of everything that we're talking about. His sacrifice unlocks these incredible blessings
Right.
and opens the way for us to receive them.
So with all of these incredible gifts in mind, it kind of makes you wonder where and how God intended to bestow them.
Right.
And this is where temples come into play.
Precisely, God wanted this dedicated space, his home on earth,
Right.
where these sacred ordinances could be performed and these eternal covenants could be made.
Yeah.
And that is why temples hold such a central place in the Latter-day Saint faith.
Yeah.
They're not just buildings, they're portals to the eternal.
And that leads to this pretty amazing anecdote that Elder Duncan shares in his address.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about a non-Latter-day Saint leader who was touring the Tokyo, Japan temple. And this leader was completely captivated by the concept of eternal families.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
This leader, someone outside of our faith,
Right.
saw eternal families as something profound,
Yeah,
a force capable of uniting a divided world.
it's true.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think we as members get used to these concepts, but to an outsider, hearing about families being sealed forever,
Yeah,
it can be truly mind-blowing.
it really can.
And it highlights the impact that these beliefs can have even beyond our own community.
For sure. And that's a key point, building temples, making these blessings accessible.
Yeah.
It's been a top priority for Latter-day Saint prophets ever since Joseph Smith.
Which makes sense when you consider what happens inside those temples. It's about connecting the living and the dead.
Yeah.
Forging those eternal links.
Right.
And ultimately helping everyone reach their divine potential.
Exactly. Remember what Joseph Smith taught. The salvation of the living and the dead, they are intertwined. We need each other to become perfect.
Right.
And temples, they provide the setting where that eternal work can take place. And that interconnectedness, that sense of working together towards something that's bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
It's a powerful motivator.
It is.
It's also important to acknowledge that not everyone celebrates the construction of these sacred spaces.
That's true. I can imagine that something as significant as a temple, something that literally shifts the landscape of eternity,
Yeah.
might attract some unwanted attention.
You're exactly right. The adversary recognizes the power of temples.
Right.
And the threat that they pose to his influence.
Okay.
He sees these sacred edifices as beacons of light. And he'll do everything in his power to try and dim that light.
It makes you realize that we're not just talking about bricks and mortar here.
Right.
We're talking about a spiritual battleground.
Precisely. And Elder Duncan, he shares a quote from Brigham Young that perfectly captures this spirit of, Latter-day Saints in the face of this opposition. When people worried about the challenges that would come with building temples, Brigham Young declared, "I want to hear the bells of hell ring again every time a new temple is announced."
Wow. You could practically hear Brigham Young's defiance in those words.
I know.
He wasn't backing down from a challenge.
He's not.
That kind of unwavering commitment really speaks volumes about the importance of this work.
It does. And it reminds us that we're not alone in this battle.
Right.
We have the power of God on our side, and we can overcome any obstacle through the strength we gain from temple covenants.
So how does all of this connect to us today?
Right.
What does it mean to live in a world where temples are becoming increasingly accessible?
That's where the modern-day Council of Prophets like President Nelson becomes so crucial.
Okay.
He teaches that in these latter days, a separation is taking place. A separation between those who choose to follow the Lord and those who don't.
And temples play a pivotal role in that choice, don't they?
They do.
They're where we make those sacred covenants that bind us to God and guide our path.
Exactly. President Nelson refers to temples as our safest insurance in these turbulent times.
I like that.
They're not just buildings, they're sanctuaries where we can find refuge from the storms of the world and draw strength from the divine.
But what does that insurance look like in practical terms? What are the tangible benefits of making temple attendance a priority?
President Nelson has promised some incredible blessings to those who are diligent in their temple worship.
Okay.
He said that we'll actually witness miracles when we make sacrifices to serve in temples.
Miracles. That's a powerful statement.
It is. But remember, the power of God is limitless.
Right.
And through temple ordinances, we tap into that power in a very real and tangible way.
Wow.
President Nelson also emphasizes this profound healing and strengthening power of Jesus Christ.
Okay.
That comes as we understand him better and strive to keep our covenants.
So it's not just about the rituals themselves,
Right.
but about the deepened understanding and commitment they represent.
Precisely. It's about forging an unbreakable connection with our Savior
Yeah.
and drawing upon his strength to navigate the challenges of life.
And that brings us back to the beginning. And those shouts of joy that Elder Duncan spoke about.
Yes.
You mean the joy that Joseph Smith and those early saints experienced when they first learned about these incredible blessings?
Exactly. That joy comes from understanding these eternal truths and actively participating in this divine work.
Okay.
It's about connecting with our ancestors, strengthening our families, and drawing closer to God in a way that transcends the boundaries of this mortal existence.
And as Elder Duncan so beautifully concludes, what do we hear in the gospel which we have received? Truly a voice of gladness.
It's a message of hope and joy that resonates across the centuries. And it's a message that has the power to change lives, families, and ultimately the world.
It makes you realize that temples are so much more than just buildings. They represent a connection to something far greater than ourselves.
Yes.
A connection to eternity, to family, and to the divine.
Absolutely.
But it also raises a thought-provoking question. if eternal families really do have the power to unite a divided world.
What role can each of us play in making that vision a reality?
It's inspiring to think that something as personal as strengthening our families can have such a profound impact on the world.
Right.
But where do we even begin?
Yeah.
It feels like a pretty daunting task.
It's true that creating lasting change,
Yeah.
whether in ourselves or in the world,
Right.
often starts with these seemingly small steps, but those steps can have this ripple effect that we might not even fully comprehend.
So what are some practical things we can do, starting today,
Yeah.
to cultivate that spirit of unity and connection,
Right.
both within our families and in our broader communities?
Well, think about the principles we find at the heart of temple worship. Love, service, sacrifice, forgiveness. These aren't just abstract ideas, they're
Okay.
action verbs.
Yep.
They're principles that we can put into practice daily in our interactions with others.
I see what you mean. It's about taking those grand concepts we learn in the temple and translating them into tangible acts of kindness,
Right.
compassion, and understanding.
Exactly. It could be as simple as making a conscious effort to really listen to our loved ones,
Okay.
to offer a helping hand to a neighbor in need,
Right.
or to forgive someone who has wronged us. It might not feel revolutionary in the moment,
Right.
but those small acts of love and service can have a transformative impact over time.
It's like planting a seed. It might seem insignificant at first,
Right.
but with nurturing and care, it can grow into something strong and beautiful
Yeah.
that provides shade and sustenance for others.
What a beautiful analogy. And remember, it's not about being perfect or having all the answers.
Right.
It's about striving to live those principles each day, even in imperfect ways.
Yeah. This has been such an enlightening conversation.
Oh, sure.
I feel like I have a whole new perspective on the importance of temples, not just as places of personal worship,
Right.
but as sources of inspiration for creating a more united and compassionate world.
And that's what makes this topic so compelling. It connects us to something far greater than ourselves,
It does.
to our past, to our future,
Mm-hmm.
and to the eternal potential that lies within each of us.
So as we go about our day, let's remember those shouts of joy
Yes.
that echoed through the early days of the Restoration. Let them remind us of the power of eternal families
Right.
and the incredible blessings that await us as we strive to live those principles in our everyday lives.
And who knows, maybe our own efforts to build bridges of understanding and connection
Right?
will inspire future generations to shout for joy as well.
That's a beautiful thought. And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into a voice of gladness. We hope this conversation has left you feeling inspired and empowered to make a difference in the world, starting right in your own home and community. Thanks for joining us.